Hello, this is the weekly Tradecast. I'm Sarah Toms. This year is a big milestone for UN Trade and Development as we mark 60 years of transforming lives and building brighter futures. As part of the celebrations, the weekly Tradecast is featuring a series of special episodes. Join us in June for insightful stories on our evolution and impact over the last 6 decades, and even more positive changes in the next 60 years. Coming up now, Jan Hoffmann tells us about some rough seas ahead as global supply chains navigate shipping disruptions.
The biggest challenge for maritime transport, and as such also a very important challenge for global trade, is the energy transition. The ships are maybe waiting for the ports, and the ports are waiting for the ships. Everyone is waiting for global regulations.
This week, as the Global Supply Chain Forum gets underway, we're getting an update on shipping disruptions that are causing major challenges for the movement of goods around the world. Ships carry about 80% of goods globally, from production to consumption. With tensions high in the Middle East, attacked by Houthi rebels on vessels in the Red Sea have diverted large amounts of traffic from one of the world's most important shipping shortcuts. Another shortcut, the Panama Canal, is suffering its own disruptions as low water levels reduce the number and size of ships that can pass through. Rebeca Grynspan, Secretary General of UN Trade and Development, has just been on the ground in Panama. This is what she says about the situation.
And I am struck by what all this operation in the Panama Canal teaches us all. Because this is not only a shortcut between the oceans. This shows us what we can do with collective action. This shows us that trade, climate change, and development are interconnected, and that it depends on us, on what we do together to really be able to face the challenges that the world has to solve right now. Climate change, development, and international trade are part of the solution if we make it happen.
Supply chains are still recovering from the pandemic and the cost of living crisis, so these shipping challenges add even more pressure on the global economy. Jan Hoffmann, head of the Trade Logistics branch at UN Trade and Development, gave us an overview in February. He's back here today for an update on the disruptions and how countries, businesses and consumers are coping. Well, welcome back, Jan. It's good to have you back on the show. Now, for several months now, many commercial ships have been taking longer routes to avoid the Red Sea. What effects are these diversions and delays having on the producers of goods and on the economies that consume them?
Yes, the longer time and the associated higher costs both have a bearing on production cycles, choices, and in the end, slowly but surely, there are impacts on prices. The inventory holding cost, the waiting, the additional cost, and the additional days of shipping. You have to pay more days of renting ships, of using the ship, and the price per day of ship has also gone up because of demand-supply balances. There's a limited number of ships. If you need more of them, more days, prices go up. So the higher costs per day of shipping, the longer distance, and also now you mentioned both the challenges, the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal, they compound each other. So if I no longer have the choice, or it's getting more complicated, more costly, it takes longer to go from Asia to the US East Coast via Suez, then normally I would use even more the Panama Canal. But this one, as we have seen, has also seen the reduced capacity. So now it's congestion everywhere. It's more containers going also through the west coast of the US. So they cross the Pacific, go to Los Angeles, Long Beach, and then they take the train. All this adds costs. It adds time. It adds to emissions.
You mentioned the Panama Canal. What are the main issues, and do you see any solutions happening quickly there?
Quickly, certainly not. So it's really a fascinating topic. Being in Panama several times and seeing how this has been growing, improving, how the new locks were inaugurated over the last 25 years. the new locks actually are much more efficient than the old locks. They use somewhat less water actually per transit, although the ships that go through them are much, much bigger. These are huge amounts of water. I was just yesterday making some little calculations. So one ship that transits through Panama, through the 6 locks, uses 750 million liters of fresh water. We here in Switzerland, on average, use 4,200 liters per day. This is also a lot because that includes all the agriculture and so on and so on. That means a couple of Swiss persons could use 1,000 years of fresh water with one transit. And now we have El Niño, we have climate change, we have a situation where there is not enough fresh water, and the capacity of the canal has significantly gone down. It used to be 36 transits per day. Now it went down to 24, at some point in time 18. It's now slowly going up. But in terms of alternatives, unfortunately, there are not many. We were just saying Suez is no longer so much of an alternative. Because that was, the two canals compete. So for the trade between Asia, East Asia, especially China and the United States, these are the two alternatives, and both are now reduced. The biggest competitor of the Panama Canal is also the so-called land bridge, meaning you take the container to Los Angeles, Long Beach, and there you continue by train, so-called intermodal connection.
Wow, that seems a long route.
This is a long route, it's more expensive. There are plans of an alternative canal in Nicaragua, but there are many environmental concerns associated with this. The railway through Panama is seeing more demand. In a way, it's like transshipping within one port. So here you unload maybe on the Pacific side, you put it on the train and put it on another ship on the Caribbean side. And this is also seeing more demand these days. But none of all these is really an alternative to the standard all-water route through the canal. And the Panama Canal Authority is making efforts with water management in the locks, technical solutions to use the water even more efficiently to move it from one side of the lock to another. This slows down. That means it takes longer to move the ships up and down from the Gatun Lake. But it's all different types of small solutions to improve the situation. No quick fix in sight. The most immediate question is how much will it rain in the next rain season? And actually it has rained a bit more recently, so the very recent numbers have seen improvements. We have seen a slight increase in transits again. So this is really, everybody's looking at the weather forecast, which the weather forecast in Panama has a bearing on global trade routes and prices.
That's an interesting thought. Now, what about developing countries? What are their specific challenges here, and what help do they need to ease the impact of these disruptions then?
For the Panama Canal, the most impacted country is, of course, Panama itself, because the canal is an important part of the country's economy. Then there are countries on the South American west coast, Ecuador, Chile, Peru. But what can countries do? And here, I'm afraid there are not many things a country that depends on these choke points can do, except key long-term plans to improve their own port and trade efficiency. We have done quite some in-depth research of what explains differences in transport cost. Why do some countries pay more than others for their shipping? And there are 6 core determinants. The first one is distance. Where am I located? If I'm a remote island, and so there's not much I can do about it. Second point, imbalances. I go full one way, go empty the other way. That increases cost. Not so much we can do about it, although better connectivity, more options through canals also help there. Third one is, of course, type of cargo, type of goods. Can I containerize further some of things, but not much I can do there. Economies of scale. The bigger the ships are, the more ports, the deeper, the lower are the unit costs. Competition is a 5th component. Make sure that your shippers have choices between different terminals, between different shipping. And last but not least, and that's really the message here, where you can do something is in your own ports, your trade facilitation, your customs, your infrastructure, your digitalization, private sector participation. All these things have shown to improve your own trade competitiveness. And it unfortunately doesn't solve the weather forecast in Panama. But on a positive note, there are many indicators that we look at, from our liner shipping connectivity index to the World Bank's logistics performance index to the United Nations survey on cross-border trade. There, year after year after year, this is getting better, including during COVID, actually, because there was more push, more interest in improving. You can really see how different countries have advanced at different speeds, and it does have an impact. It does improve trade competitiveness, prices at home, and trade efficiency.
The Red Sea disruptions are about geopolitics and security, and the Panama Canal is environmental, the impact of climate change. So what do these two dynamics mean to the future as we continue trying, as you said, to make shipping and supply chains more resilient?
Yeah, the biggest challenge for maritime transport, and as such also a very important challenge for global trade, is the energy transition. There are clear goals set by the International Maritime Organization to decarbonize shipping by 2050. And to get there, we need very soon to have different ships using alternative fuels. The ports need to get ready for the ships. The ships are maybe waiting for the ports, and the ports are waiting for the ships. Everyone is waiting for global regulations. What is the carbon price of the future? So all this, it is in response to climate change. We need to mitigate, we need to react. But there are also geopolitical implications, because it does have an impact on who will be the new providers of the alternative fuels. What does it mean if shipping costs go up somewhat? They will go up. We are doing an impact assessment as we speak. These measures have different impacts on different countries. So there you have a combination of politics, political responses, preferences, priorities, and the big picture, which is climate change mitigation and the energy transition in shipping.
The shipping disruptions are sure to be a big part of the Global Supply Chain Forum. So what are other hot topics around the challenges and opportunities for supply chains and the global economy?
Yes, so our first UN Global Supply Chain Forum in Barbados, 500, 600 participants, and all the topics we have just been discussing will also be discussed in depth with port specialists, with energy specialists, with supply chain specialists, high-level heads of organizations. But then all the interlinked issues. Digitalization will be a key topic. We will present a new UNCTAD publication on single windows. All the issue of the linkages between optimization and then also energy savings. Food security will be a topic, because there are, of course, all these supply chain disruptions have an effect, especially for a number of small island developing states on their food security situation. We will look at trade facilitation, the implementation of the WTO agreement. We will look at climate change adaptation. It's a nice connection, the challenges that we have discussed just now. So getting together really the who is who of global supply chains and having them work together from transport, trade facilitation, politics, private sector, and seeing this is not going to get better. There will be more and more challenges associated with the technological advances, challenges with the decarbonization, challenges with interruption, with geopolitics. So we better work together.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that update. Thank you to UN Trade and Development's Jan Hoffmann, who was this week's guest. Tune into the weekly Tradecast next week and every week for more insights on the most pressing issues around the world of trade and development. And there's even more on our website, UNCTAD.org. I'm Sarah Thomas in Geneva. Goodbye for now.